And good afternoon, and wherever you are in this wide, beautiful world that we live in, you're very welcome to the Soft and System Size to Sales. And this week, we're talking about when and where and if we should discount. Hey, thank you. And we are live to the world. And today, I think it's a really quite interesting subject that we're speaking about today is when we should discount. But there is a big but here is should we discount? Does it give us less value for our product or service that we're offering? Or does everyone know that we're giving discounts here and there and our managers are giving us pressure to get sales in and bums on seats or service or whatever it might be just to push things through? But when is the right time? Because we all do it and we've all done it. But are we devaluing what we're actually offering in our service that we give? Shay, look, this is quite an interesting subject that we're going to be discussing today because what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah, it's Jason. Like while there's no absolutes in this, right? But there are a few controls and criteria that you should consider anytime you're going to give a discount, because the big danger when you offer discounts on a regular basis, it becomes the norm, it becomes the expectation in your customer's mind, and therefore you are devaluing your product because they won't accept the normal price if you do it too much. So while it can be useful, it has to be controlled with certain criteria. And even if I was to talk about a few that I like to discuss, Jason, one of my favorites to use a discount is if you want to add an extra sales cycle to your sort of yearly run. Because people talk about one of the big things that I see when managers come in and say, yeah, look, we have to increase our targets by 10% next year.
Yeah.
And people go, oh my God, we've no more doors to knock on. Well, knocking on doors isn't the only way to do that, Jason. One of them is offer an extra 2 or 3 sales cycles through the course of the year. And they are discounted, and they can also help, especially if there's a very competitive market. You can really get like market retention and build market dominance, if that's the word you want to use, by getting people into your products. And it depends on the type of products too, but that is one place I like them. Another, Jason, I like to use is if I'm onboarding a new client, and sometimes I will offer them a discount, or what I prefer to do is offer them a little bit extra value for what I do. So it's not just because, again, I'm in the service world. Like I'm very apprehensive with discounts, Jason, because especially, and you'll be the same, that if you offer a discount, they'll expect it every month. You'll get like completely trolled on by the purchasing manager who's only got a cost focus, not a value focused. And I always make that very, very clear. If I am offering a discount, I'll put it in a contract. This is a once off. And after that, it's this, because I've been there, done that. And I always I inoculate myself from these situations, Jason, because like I think we've talked about in some of our sales objections conversations where they interrupt you halfway through your presentation, go, what's your cost per day or cost, whatever it is? And I go, I don't know yet. That's what I do. And they go, well, we need to know before we move forward. And I said, well, if you only want to move forward on cost, I'm happy to walk away now, if that's your focus. So it is important to be very well prepared for your prospects and your customers when they challenge you on your price, Jason. But you're very right. You have to be and responsible for your own value that you deliver. You can't let clients dictate your price. Otherwise, you will never ever succeed in what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I totally concur with that. And if you get yourself into that habit of, especially at the end of the month or the end of the quarter, whenever it might be, and you know you're falling short, and you go, oh, how can I get more revenue in? And again, you get that pressure. And I've been into those situations before that you have to do something, but the clients know what you're doing. They know it's the end of the month. They're not stupid. They know it's the end of the quarter or whatever, and they know that you're doing something. I think sometimes you just have, again, is if you've got a deal on the table and you want to give value forward, is to say, look, just be honest with them. It is the end of the month. I can't discount. I cannot do anything. But what I will do is I'll add a little bit more value to the offering, whatever it might be. I can add in another box to it, or I can add in an extra half hour's consultancy, an hour's consultancy, or training, or coaching, or whatever it might be, to add the criteria onto it. Like, we know that sometimes, again, new clients, I've done it before. I've even offered the first session a taster, and I know you've done it as well, is this is what I do, but the criteria going forward, this is what I charge. But just so you can get a sense of how I work and how I operate. Then if it, again, this is something that which is quite annoying, a lot of the telcos companies do it to attract new clients in, is they offer the bells and whistles, but they don't offer it once you're an existing client. Unless you...
No, I know. And it sounds ironic, Jason, because you're a loyal customer, but yet they're offering new customers a better rate than you when you've been a loyal customer. I tell you, I'm sick to death listening to my dad about his Sky package all the time because it is, right? And I totally get that. But, you just said something there, Jason, like at the end of the month. One other area, now this is more product-facing environments and sectors. Like what I often see, and this is a counterproductive thing, Jason. We talked about purchasing people putting pressure on, and that's what they do. They have a focus. One of their key metrics is to reduce cost per component or cost per product. So they tend to, the only way they can deliver that on their metrics, and I call these contradictory metrics on two levels, Jason. One is they will look to get a lower cost per unit. So what do? They buy in bulk. And I see this, especially when companies are buying labels, and especially if they're from places where they're coming from far distances, like the Asia or somewhere like that. They buy in bulk to get a lower cost product, right? But here's the thing, Jason, two things happen, right? You've committed to this bulk, right? What happens if it goes out of date? You can't do anything. You throw it out. Or if it's a case, Jason, where the product line is coming to an end and some other company or the market has been disrupted, there's innovation happening, and you're left with all this product that now you can't sell. It's going to become obsolete. Now you have to really do a discount in order to get something back that you've paid for. And that is one of the big challenges I see with companies dealing with suppliers who are far reaching, because they buy in bulk to get that lower. But that's not always productive because they can catch you on the other side.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 situation there. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because you're in business. And hopefully it won't go out. Fashion's like that. I was in the fashion trade for a while.
A really good example. Yeah.
And in a startup, and you get all of these goods coming in. You order way far in ahead, and then it comes in, and then no one's buying, and then you have to discount it. You have to reduction. You have to do something with it. And I think going into the SaaS world, going to the SaaS technology, you normally get three options. You get the basic version, you get the beta version or the mid version, and you get the top version with all the bells and whistles. Generally, as a rule, you don't get discounts in that sort of scenario if you're buying like that. But again, I'm one of these people that always ask for a discount wherever I go, because probably I'm the worst person in the world that salespeople hate. But I know what it's like on the other side. So it is a barter and exchange. Gross profits, and when I used to sell digital copiers, you'd have that profit and you'd have the area of wiggle room, where, especially in the City of London, where they'd always strike you down. But you know where you start, you know where you can go to, and then it's all negotiation. And I know we spoke about negotiation as well, but it's only in those stakes where there's no other option for a salesperson. Obviously, you've got to hold the trust and credibility. But again, there might be a slight percentage wiggle room, which some people do go for. And I've been there in that situation where, like, I'm at the end of the month and I have to do something. So what do? I offer that, and then I might work with the service contract and up that, so I can balance things out. So you have to be quite clever about doing something, but you've also got to make sure that you're also quite trustworthy and very honest, and let the customer know what you're doing, so they get that connection with you. That it's to rob Peter to pay Paul, and vice versa, just so you can actually balance things up on.
But that's it, Jason. And here's the thing: like, if you think about it, both parties have to win from this relationship and this equation, right? I always talk about the win-win. If you're in a situation where they're winning and you're losing, you're not going to be able to support that. You're going to have to eventually walk away. Or some people, what they do, they just provide a substandard service, which is not good for anyone. You end up walking away. I've actually gone into companies and I've had to get them to fire their lowest performing customers, because they were too loose with their customers, with their contracts, their terms and conditions, their SLAs. And all of a sudden you said you're going to do this in the contract, but you ended up this plus another 100% because the customer has changed the goalposts. But here's the thing, you allowed them, Jason. So you have to decide whether the customer, you can bring them back on that journey or not. And if you can't, then you have to walk away. And I always talk about firing your customers, but you don't fire them in a bad way. You can help say, look, I think there's someone better who can support you better than me. So you introduce them to another company that could be a competitor, but you have to walk away. I worked with a company down in the south of Ireland, and when I did analysis on their books, like, there was a big issue. They couldn't understand why they were losing money when their sales and their revenue turnover is so good. But it turned out there was a glitch in their system, and one of their biggest running products that they sold wasn't including the labor element of the product being built, right, in the operational component, and it's being sold at a substandard price. And no wonder it was selling as one of their biggest products, because it was beating the competition out of the market. That was a massive piece of work to bring back in line, because all of a sudden the sales reps lost a lot of their customers. But it was either, it's better to not have them than to have them and lose money.
And reputation. And that's, we spoke about this before, but it's also understanding your competition, where they are at, what they offer, what price they do, what services they offer, and get a really good understanding. I've been working with a client recently, and like, they know their main competitor, they know all the prices, they know the services that they offer, they know all the other aspects of that, but they go, well, this is my price and this is how I price it, and that's the competitor. So they know everything, and they know of all the other competition around them that does something similar. So then again, it's just say, well, this is what we do compared to our nearest competition, who is X and Y, or whoever. If you're comparing apples with apples, obviously if you're comparing apples with oranges, it's slightly different there. But I think it's that due diligence, and we know we spoke about that before, but it is knowing your market, it is knowing your competition, and it is knowing what is reasonable and what is not reasonable for you to actually play around with your price that you can offer. But again, it is value going all the way forwards. But again, something that I was thinking of just now, and I think you touched on the point, is the negative effects that the discounting can do. If you do it in an untrustworthy way, you've given it to someone. But being in a market where there's lots of other people like you or similar, people do their research. So you've got to be quite careful and consistent, especially in that market, the media market. Everyone knows each other, as an example. So if you give a discount to someone, everyone's going to find out. As much as you say, don't tell anyone, what happens, people say stuff, and again they expect that. So it is a negative effect that you're going to have onto the market as well.
Yeah, and that's very true, Jason. Like we touched on this a few minutes ago. Like you mentioned, when you're starting off with a new client, right? Like like I always talk about the soft way into a company. I never go for the big proposal. I never go big in the beginning, because that backfires, Jason, on so many levels, right? I always say, well, look, let's do a proof of concept. Let's pick one problem. Let's do a few workshops. I'm happy to discount this, so you're not overly exposed. You're going to get some benefit. And then the benefit is that we both see if we work well together. Is it a good fit? You get something out of it. I've got something out of it. And it's nothing too, doesn't go too far down the road where we know it's not a good fit. So it's a great way to do that. And then, Jason, you can decide at the end whether you just want to move forward or not. But again, it's important to ring fence the criteria and scope around that, to say this is just for this, because I believe I can help you. I want to show and demonstrate that to you in a very soft environment. And I think that can be very useful. The other thing I see a lot, Jason, and not just in service, not just in product actually, but in service, and I've seen this a lot in the world, even when the top 4 consulting firms, they're actually giving discounted because they just want to get market share. Yep. They're actually discounted, and they become more of recruiting companies, Jason, just putting bums on seat in clients just to get market share. And I've seen now Deloitte is now the biggest service company in the world at this moment in time. They've got 1/3 people working from them in all their professional services.
Yeah. And that's where they get market share there, and their share prices go up because of that. So sorry to jump in there, but I know when I went to Silicon Valley, investors will go on with growth potential, and they see how many numbers they've actually got to be investor ready, and they've probably been discounted left, right, and center to get them, or we're doing freebies or anything like that. Something I was going to say is a good time to do it is when you get a referral. Then you give your client that gave the referral a discount, or vice versa. But you give something back just to build on that relationship. Say, look, what I'm going to do, thank you for that. If you give me a customer, I will give you X amount for free. I'll give you 50% off, or whatever it might be that you do. And I think that's a really good one. Again, some companies do that, is early payment. So if you get paid, it's better that we get money straight away. Then you can avail from discount. There's a lot of companies that do that as well as a discounting option, because the 30 days, some companies, I've had 3 months from a company, which isn't good for cash flow, because you just want to be paid straight away to pay your marketing, pay all your other efforts that you do in your SEO and your website and all of that. And so that's a couple more options on top of what we spoke about. And again, bundling items in. So we spoke about that. And again, retention and loyalty.
Yeah, well, I always think with retention, Jason, like, and loyalty, there's other ways to keep them loyal. And I always say, go above and beyond, play in their playground so much that they won't even entertain the competition. Become their partner in whatever it is you provide for them. You won't be the cheapest. It's not the goal to be the cheapest, Jason. They want good value for service. But even if the cheapest comes knocking the door, they won't entertain, because you're so important to them. You're not just delivering a service, you're delivering expertise and experience and consultation and anything else that you can add in. That's what they pay for. And that's what I believe is a much better return for a customer than discounting, because you'll become, if you discount too much, Jason, you won't feel comfortable.
Yeah, devalued. Yeah, completely.
It's devaluing you. And again, you can become bitter towards a customer that you feel you have to keep them, but then your branding, your personal branding, your levels drop because you don't feel valued and so forth. So I think it's very important to ring fence and scope these things as you do them.
Again, it's do you want to buy a Ferrari or do you want to buy a Mini?
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
I can't afford a Ferrari.
For a Mini, but it's that. See, if you buy something, you get the psychological effect of, once you pay for something a little bit more expensive, then in your head you'll automatically feel like it's valued, and you invest so much more time and effort into it, assuming that you're going to get money back, or you're going to get the service levels back, or everything. Look, I think we've hit our witching hour, and it's 20 minutes on the dot. That's what we always do. Again, this is your question, and I know you're going to do more than one specific thing that is good to do in discounting, and one thing not to do.
Well, just ensure you scope the criteria for discounting, and what you do then, Jason, is be true to that and make sure your customers are clear on that. And the other thing, Jason, is always believe in your value. Never devalue yourself. That's very important, or your business, or your client for that matter either.
What I would say on that is be trustworthy and be confident in what you say and do. So again, Simon's just gone on there, agree with the bundles, adding more value, which although comes with, there we go. I'll just put it up before we go. Thanks a lot for that, Simon. A race to the bottom will lose. Yep. You're absolutely right. So again, have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot, Shay, and we shall see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.